I am playing Valheim in reverse using innovative tricks and challenging myself to beat Valheim, starting with the last boss and working my way backwards through the game. Welcome back to playing Valheim in reverse. Last episode we finally got iron, which means we have crossed one of the massive barriers, but it's not over yet as we still need a ton more exploration, and we still have a lot to do in this series, but we are starting to make some progress. Before we get started, I am currently trying to make it to 2,000 subscribers, and if you could help me get there, that would mean a lot to me, and thank you guys so much for the support on the series and watching. So last episode we finally got our first couple pieces of iron, and we also got a bunch of Fenris hair and stuff like that. So in the meantime, I have made the iron into a stone cutter for now. I probably won't keep it like that, but that at least allows me to make the cutting stone for the forge, meaning we get another upgrade for free pretty much. And on top of that, I was able to use some of the Fenris hair to make pants, which means I have a little bit more armor now. Unfortunately for me, I do not have enough wolf pelt to make the hood of the Fenris armor. However, I do have my cultist trophy, so all I really have to do is head back up to the mountains and get a little bit more wolf pelt so I can go back and make that and have my full set. And the full set will grant me with a few bonuses, one being resistance to fire damage. And while that doesn't seem insanely important because I won't be facing it for a long time, this will probably be the set that I will enter the Ashlands wearing. Ideally, I would like to be wearing the silver set when I am actually fighting the Ashlands, as well as a bunch of silver weapons and even Mistlands weapons, but for the way that I plan to get there, I'm probably going to need this set on, which means that some fire resistance is definitely not going to hurt, and on top of that, it's a lot more armor and fairly easy to upgrade. And while we make our Fenris hood, let's talk about what we're going to do today, because while I do still have a bunch of plans to progress and get more iron, which I will totally do either this episode or next episode, I do on top of that definitely want to upgrade the armor that I have, and also I need to make the base a little bigger. I know this isn't necessarily a speedrun series, but as far as base building, I'm not too into it because I'm not going to have a lot of the stuff that I want for base building, and there's no reason to spend a ton of time on it, especially because in our next modded series, we're going to be building a ton of stuff. The modded series is already underway, so I can tell you guys there are some insane builds going on, and that's probably more of a fitting scenario for those to be in. But I do need to make the base a little bigger. I need a lot more storage. I need a little bit of a better cooking area, and I'm going to start to have a lot more portals, as well as I just am tired of stuff running into my base and starting to break my stuff. So I'm going to do that. I need a little bit of a bigger farm as well. So I think today I'm going to expand the base as well as try and get more iron, and then we may even start to dip into some silver stuff, because I do have a plan to start getting silver after I get a little bit more iron. More upgrades for our armor first on the list, though, means that we are going to need a lot more wolf pelt, which is not going to be too hard. It's just going to be another trip back into the mountains. And on top of that, I'm going to start collecting freeze glands, because here soon, hopefully, I will be able to craft up some ice cream, as well as maybe frost arrows, but I'm going to need some freeze glands, so there's no reason not to keep them. And on top of that, I have a little plains over here that I found beside the mountain, which I may actually dip into just to see if I can get a bit of lox meat or even lox pelt for a lox pelt cape, which would be a lot easier to support because I do not need the wolf trophy in the event that I don't get it. And after a while of spending some time in the mountains, I was able to come back with enough wolf pelt to at least upgrade one piece of my set, giving me a little bit more armor. And while I'm going to need a lot more wolf pelt and leather scraps in the future, I still have enough Fenris hair to probably upgrade the entire set, and for now I'm just going to keep working on it slowly. But I am running out of stuff to do in the mountains that I have, so the next day when I got back on, I ended up going to Moder because I have it marked on my map from last episode's cave, and I know for sure that there will be a decent sized mountain there with probably tons of frost caves, a good amount of silver if I can possibly find it, and a bunch of other opportunities, so there's no reason not head over there and put a portal down now and see what else I can find. And it was a decently long but fairly uneventful sail. However, when I landed on land, it was night, which was not good for me. So I decided to put a portal at the bottom of the mountain, which is something that I suggest all of you do playing any sort of solo, but especially in these challenges when you have no opportunity for help. Make sure you get portals down and beds down on different continents. That way you don't lose your entire body with no way of getting back to it. Anyways, I put it down, headed back for the night to sleep after connecting it, and then came back the next day to go up to actually head up the Moder Mountain and see what I could find. Luckily for me, like I figured, not far up the mountain I found my first ice cave, and after surveying the area a little bit and setting my spawn outside, as well as marking it on the map in case I needed to get back to it, I was able to easily head in, and lucky for me, this one had a decent amount of wooden gates, and after spending quite a bit of time finding all the ones that I could and breaking all of them down, I actually got a couple iron ingots, allowing me to leave this cave with 3 total iron ingots in total, and to head up the mountain to find more caves, because like I said, I figured that there was going to be more, because this was the mountain that Moder is on, and it is likely to be pretty large and have a lot of caves. And I was exactly right. There was another frost cave, and luckily for me, once again, this one had a lot of wooden gates, but not only did it have a lot of wooden gates, but I was getting quite lucky with the iron drop rate, and I was actually getting enough iron from this to give me a decent amount of hope that while I don't really want this to be my only iron farming method, it is a viable one that is giving me a decent amount of iron. On top of that, I got more hair and other resources from these caves that were going to allow me to progress even further. Things like obsidian to make arrows, as well as the workbench upgrade, upgrades were going to give me just enough room to be able to do what I needed and to keep on progressing, even if it felt slow. And upon getting out of this cave, it was nighttime, so I headed back down the mountain to deposit the iron that I had found in my boat so I could take it back to the base later, and I had found 6. And again, while that doesn't sound like a lot, I really only need 20 for the first decent bit of the playthrough. I need just enough for a pickaxe. After I get a pickaxe, I'm going to be mainly focused on trying to get as much silver as I possibly can with the method that I have in mind, and then after I get all the silver that I can and I build my silver armor, my Draugr and all that stuff, I can go back to focusing on getting enough iron for a boat and an arbalist as well as a crom. But for now, that really doesn't matter. All I need enough for is the pickaxe, and 6 out of 20 is not doing too bad, considering that I can also visit the swamp at night for oozers, as well as I still have another Mistlands method to retry out after a couple episodes ago when I failed it. But for now, I'm going to stick to the mountains, so I made a little bit more food, headed back up, and decided that it was time to put the portal up a little higher on the mountain. That way, in the case of death, I would not have to use my entire corpse run or die at the bottom to get an extra corpse run to try and get just up the mountain in general when I have a decently safe spot to put the portal. I then spent the next couple days after setting up the portal, the next couple in-game days were all spent just running around the mountain and trying to find more ice caves, trying to kill more wolves, drakes, just farming a bunch of resources, but also just trying to get as much of a bearing of this mountain as I could, because surely there were more than 2 frost caves on it. And it was mostly just me killing wolves, drakes, and exploring, because I really did not find much more than that. But my patience did later pay off, because after quite a while, like I said, 2 in-game days of walking around the mountain and finding pretty much nothing other than resources, I finally did find another frost cave, and I quickly set my spawn outside in case something went wrong inside and headed in. And this cave, compared to the other 2, was fairly big and a little bit bigger than the last 2 that I had been in. However, for the cave size, there was not that many of the wooden gates, and it seemed that my luck had kind of run out for these wooden gates, as I was not getting any iron at all. So I headed back to base to work on a couple base things that I had been neglecting a little bit. The biggest one being that I was running out of farming space, needed to expand it drastically, and as I mentioned earlier, I need to just expand the base in general. So I flattened out a decent size area and got off for the night, but that would be my start for tomorrow. Because this base needs a lot of expanding, I'm going to need to do a lot of different things, but I need to kind of put it all into one cohesive project. It doesn't have to look great, but I just have to get it all to work. And I had to obviously start by getting some resources and also just clearing the area around the base, getting rid of all the rocks and trees, because I was going to make it quite a bit bigger. The first part and most important part though is making the garden bigger, because I have onions now. I have a lot more plant seeds because I've been planting the seed plants over there in the tiny one, meaning that I now need that. And as well as that, I'm going to start needing a lot better food as I progress into the really late game biomes, because I'm going to need as much health as I possibly can. After building a little section for the garden, I started building out the gate, and I think I'm just going to build it all the way out to the water, or as far as I possibly can, build up the ground around it, and just try and keep a nice little square or circle little foundation going for us. And like I said, kind of just close in a little area. It doesn't have to look amazing, but enough area to get portals down, chests down, keep our farm safe, keep anything else we might need, and just get all of that set up in a nice little cohesive area, so that way I don't have to worry about anything getting hit by Great Orcs anymore. And also on top of that, I can expand the pieces of my facilities that I need. I also decided on picking a specific corner for just a bunch of roofs, or a specific side. On this side, I can do things like the cooking station. I can move those over from over there. I can put portals down if I want. And the biggest other thing that I need to upgrade is the storage. So I spent a little bit of time designing a new storage area that would serve us at least decently far into the game, much better than at least what we have in our base right now. And we can leave some of what we have in our base right now for extra in case we want it. After getting most of the fence done around the outside, other than the gates, I needed to actually start planting my stuff. So that way when I went to bed, I would be able to forward the timer on them a bit. But while those grow, I do have something else to plant. I've harvested a ton of wood today, and it's getting quite far of a run from my base, and on top of that, I need more fine wood growing next to my base, so I planted some birch trees as well as a bunch of the beech saplings that I had. Hopefully in a few days they'll grow into a nice forest around our base that we can keep harvesting for wood for any base upgrades or anything else we might need without having to run too far. One of the biggest things I'm still getting used to is going from modded to a vanilla series, especially a vanilla challenge series, where I don't have anything like multipliers applied. It makes it a lot harder for things like weight as well as inventory size, and running that far with only a couple hundred wood has been absolutely painful compared to the modded experience I've been having. So I decided that I needed to make it almost one of my highest priorities to keep trees planted around here so I don't have to keep wasting time doing that. Another part of this series, besides that part of the modded that I've been meaning to talk about, I just haven't had a chance to yet, is that I really did not expect how hard it is to play without power-ups. Even at this point in the game, I really wouldn't have anything too significant other than maybe bone mass if I had gotten there. Playing without the power-ups is just so weird. Even the first power-up is so useful, and there's so many situations where I find myself pressing my power-up button on my keyboard just for nothing to happen, or seeing that empty slot next to my health. It's very odd coming from a series where we have really high multipliers and crazy power-ups to this, where it's, you know, back to to vanilla, but it's just interesting, and it's something that I really didn't pick out as being one of the challenges of the series, though it is one of the ones that I've noticed at least this far into it. And in that time of me yapping, we have actually done a decent amount of finishing the base. I do still have a bit more storage to do, as well as I might actually label them with signs. I don't really know what all categories I'll have to use yet, but I'll just kind of have to look at my inventory and what I have, and then I'll start moving stuff from the main base over here, organizing it and kind of getting it set up. And on top of that, I may make or move the little cooking area that we already have, expand it a bit and move it over here under these roofs. That way we have a little bit more room around our entrance to our actual little house, and we can get that its own little area next to the storage where I can actually store the food and keep the ingredients. Okay, so I got the storage completely built up, everything labeled, and everything is getting moved over from the main base. Now all those chests have been destroyed over there, except for maybe the two under the bed, but I kind of want to use those for something like a throne or something that will give me more comfort. That way I can use it. The plants are growing good and the base is expanded. I think I will, maybe after I move the cooking area. I do have to get back on the iron grind because that's pretty much my only path of progression right now, and while I did need a base upgrade, we're pretty much done with it for now. And like I said, it doesn't look like the best thing ever, but we do need to get back to the iron farming because it's probably the most important thing we can do right now. Now, I do still have a few more options for the iron grind. I could go back to the mountains, I could go to the swamp and make any last-ditch effort, or I could try and do what I know is probably going to be the most profitable, but also probably the most annoying, is go to the Mistlands. And I think I'm going to save the Mistlands for tomorrow, because I only have a short amount of time left in the day to play, and I think the easiest thing I can do, other than looking for frost caves, which I've already done a ton today, is go look back in the swamp and make sure that I'm not missing anything before I just completely give up on it, because pretty much at this point I've gotten no iron from the actual swamp, only from other places, and most of my ideas are starting to think of other places, so I'll give this one more chance before I try it. Now, on top of going to the swamp for iron, I also need to go for more cores for more portal sets, but on my way there, I don't know how I've missed it walking past this so many times. This is the path that I always follow, but finally, I caught the glimpse of light in the middle of the daytime. There was a muddy scrap pile sticking out of the hillside. Now, this is something that I had strategized as a very situational but possible thing that could happen. With steep cliff edges around swamps, there's a possibility that the muddy scrap piles that spawn under the ground spawn sticking through the ground in a way that you can find them, which is exactly what happened here. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but after uncovering the whole thing and mining out the entire thing, making sure that there was none left around it, I ended up with 3 iron, which again, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but if I can get 1 or 2 more from an Oozer, that puts us at halfway to where we need to be for our pickaxe, which is the only iron we really need to be worrying about right now. Next episode, we'll probably try out the Mistlands. We'll probably try out to get the Oozers, and we need to start bringing the iron back so we can actually use it, because if you guys do remember, we also have, I think, 4 back at base from the stuff that we ran, meaning we're getting very close to our pickaxe, being able to do the silver section of our plan, and actually getting some valuable weapons that we can start to take towards the end of the game. But that plan, as well as all the other shenanigans that I'm going to get into for this series, are going to have to wait till next episode. If you guys are enjoying this series, please make sure to let me know down in the comments below, and let me know if you guys have any feedback as well. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm currently trying to make it to 2,000 subscribers, and if you could help me get there, that would mean a lot to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do truly hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.